G'day to all you blokes and sheilas out there, this is Gareth Price of the Sinister Siblings. Now, I had originally intended on making a gaming video for the next Fallout episode. However, something has been bugging me for months now. This fan war between the Xenomorphs and the Flood. Oh, how far wrong this is. The creator of this goes by the name One Fish Mob. I may leave a link down in your description so that we can let a comment war ensue after this. The problem I have with this is the entire fight. I'm actually going to basically, let you guys see this fight as it is, while reviewing bits and pieces that are so far wrong, it's ridiculous. So, without further ado, let's go. For one, why does the grave mine look like a tiny worm?
This one is machine and nerve, and has its mind concluded.
No. It has its mind controlled.
This one is but flesh and faith, and is the more deluded.
That's what they are, really.
And this one's great journey are the same. And I have listened through rock and metal and time. Now I shall talk, and you shall listen.
Here we go. Here comes the stupidity of this all. Let's stop that first part right there. Now, as we all know in the Halo logic, and let me just get all this out of the way. I've read the Wikipedias of both the Xenomorphs and the Flood, as well as watched all the Alien movies and played all the Halo games that include the Flood. As far as I can tell, Xenomorphs are an exoskeleton-based creature, which means, like ants and wasps, their skeleton is on the outside. Now, true, the Xenomorph can kill the Flood like that, alright? That makes sense. But did we forget the fact that the explosion from one of those Flood carriers does damage? So if that's the case there, that Xenomorph should also be dead, shouldn't it? That's mistake number one. I'm actually going to try, annotating every mistake One Fish Mob has made and every little detail about the Flood and Xenomorphs he's left out. First of all, let me just get rid of this thing here. Oh no, I can't. Shit. Oh well, but this is going to be a long video. Trust me. All the qualities of stupidity that he has made and everything he's left out. Why can't I get rid of this? Just throw it away. Get rid of it. Go away. Alright. Be that way then. But, let's continue. Another mistake there. Those Flood creatures just try to infect the Xenomorph. Did we also forget one other thing? I think we've all remembered throughout the Halo games that if you kill an infection form when it's, trying to infect a host, the host it's infecting also dies. I'm pretty sure One Fish Mob forgot that part as well. That Xenomorph that just swiped down one of the Flood, before... They're not the one that melted down, the one that just regularly died. I think we also forgot throughout the Halo games that if you kill a Flood creature, with a Flood combat form with anything other than an energy sword, shotgun, explosives, sentinel beam, and, in Halo 3, the blade of a brute shot, the Flood combat form doesn't tend to stay dead for long. It goes into a state of dormancy for a few seconds, then gets up again. So, those Xenomorphs that just killed that Flood creature are going to be in for a terrible shock when they notice it just get back up as if it was nothing. Oh, I love this part here. A Xenomorph managing to breed from a Flood. Alright, here we go. Here's the interesting part. Here's a very interesting part. If a Xenomorph is able to breed from the Flood, which it's not, but let's go against better logic and say that it is able to. A xenomorph, basically, when it impregnates a host, the embryo needs to take DNA, nutrients, and other genetic coding from the host in order, so when it fully matures, it takes the attributes of that host. So in doing so, it's taking flood DNA. DNA, which has a sole purpose when consumed or basically injected into a creature, overrides said creature's genetic code and DNA without hassle. It doesn't matter what what type of alien creature its DNA is in, whether it has acidic blood, lava for blood, breathes in acid, breathes in ash, or it doesn't matter what. The flood DNA will override that creature's DNA. So, one fish mob, you've missed that part. So, if you ever make another fan war between us and you make a part 2, you'll notice so many xenomorphs that have bred from the flood turn into flood. That's gonna be fun to watch. Once again, those xenomorphs that have basically been attacked by flood infection forms trying to infect them would also be dead. Same there. That flood will get back up. The flood that was just attacked from above. Those flood creatures, also, 1, they will get back up again because they've just been attacked by the head, which is not the central control point of this flood's body. 2, xenomorphs have just consumed flood-infected flesh, riddled with flood DNA and flood spores, so going down the throat, which has to be protected by a lining to stop the acid from burning that up. As we all know there, flood DNA and flood spores will be latching onto them without, rupturing that, taking all DNA and, information about the xenomorphs in doing so, which means that every other flood creature will receive the DNA, instantly evolve when there's no xenomorphs around, or basically adapt with those little, puffs of flood creatures, flood spores, not flood clouds, or whatever, flood little pus pieces, as we've seen in Halo 3, and once the xenomorphs start using their acidic blood, it will have no effect on the flood. Also, the consumed flesh would end up infecting the flood creature from the inside out. Once again, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Those get back up again. Oh, we forget one other thing. The ship has flood on it, isn't it? Isn't that right? Wouldn't that mean the control room is no longer necessary for the flood to... If the grave mind's in the engine room or something like that, it's probably like, the bugs from Starship Troopers Invasion, that Queen. He's taking control of the ship. Alright? I think we all know that there. Halo 2, and Amberclad. Halo 3, High Charity, and all those other flood-infected Covenant ships. The flood take control of it. It doesn't matter where it is. The flood will have control of it. Also, why haven't there been flood pieces around the ship? I was saying that the flood weren't... How are the flood on board? All that, if they weren't in control of the ship. Can we understand that? If there's a grave mind in there, it has to be controlling the ship. So that's another thing you've missed out, one fish mob. I'll bring this forward a bit more. Of course the flood will survive. That doesn't work like that. Alright, I'm going against the flood's behalf on that one there. They must be on the Xenomorph's home planet, wouldn't they? They will get back up again and attack the Xenomorphs. Why does the tank look like an oversized version of the Hulk with claws? Those flood infection forms would have ended up, killing the Xenomorph because they were trying to infect it. Also, As we found out, because they're exoskeleton based like wasps and ants and all that other stuff their skeleton is literally on the outside. Xenomorphs don't have to burrow into their chest, one fish mob. They just latch onto their back and boom! The Xenomorphs are taken over and infected. Try learning one day, you'll be able to figure things out. Those Xenomorphs, well, those flood creatures would still be alive. So would that one, because it can just get back up again. The only way for you, like I've said, those weapons and all that, you have to either entirely destroy the nerve system of the flood or blow it to bits. Otherwise, it's just going to get back up again. We all know that from that Halo 1, 2, and 3. Everyone who's played that would know that, wouldn't they? Good. I've never known of a queen getting that big before. Well, I guess you would know of one, but then again. Okay. Flood creatures would just get back up after a few seconds and attack the Xenomorphs that just killed them. It's amazing how stupid we've done. So, if the Gravemind is still alive at this point, which we know he is, he's probably still on the ship, embedding himself into the planet and fusing the planet with him.
Dead or held perish as they did before.
Oh, I could just done that the whole time? Right. Fuck me. Stop. Oops. My bad. Hang on, I have to do that again. I pressed the wrong button. Oops. Shit. Hang on, put that back there. Press that one, go here. Okay. Continue. Those are regular drones, they can't do that. Only spitters can do that. They have to have a different design, don't they? Also, that Xenomorph Queen should be dead with the amount of flood creatures that were attacking it. The war has been won. Yeah, right. Part 2! All Xenomorphs, including the Queen that consumed flood flesh, or were bred from flood, turn into flood. Gravemind embeds into planet, fuses with planet, becomes part of the planet. Xenomorph creatures, unable to defeat the new flood host, an army that has incorporated their own. That is the real part 2. So try getting to work on that, and this time do everything by the books, one fish mob. Don't just go your own way about it.
So why did the Xenomorphs win this war?
They won because you misread nearly everything about them. Well, because you basically misread the entire battle. You rigged it up for the Xenomorphs to win because you've forgotten most of what the Flood can do, their abilities, habitats, understanding within all that other stuff. Xenomorphs can't breed from Flood. Xenomorphs can't consume Flood-infected flesh without becoming Flood. Xenomorphs can't survive Flood infection forms trying to latch onto the host without dying as well. God. Think for once before going everything half-cocked. Alright?
Well, both the Flood and Xenomorph cast could easily counter the other, correct?
Also, this guy's voice is annoying. He may have a cold or something like that, I don't know.
Forms can counter facehuggers, chest bursters countering him.
Right. Countering facehuggers. Do you mind telling me how many flood creatures were impregnated and harvested by Xenomorphs in that video? That would inquire to, how many Xenomorph embryos have matured then turned into flood if you make a part 2.
Forms, drones countering standard combat forms with their stealth. Elite combat forms could
Stealth. Wow. Yeah, those look very stealthy.
counter the warrior cats by using equipment they have from the Halo universe, which by all means is far superior to whatever weapons the Colonial Marines have on, and so on. The Gravemind could easily strategically guide them through combat. Heck, they even had the chance of actually outlasting the Xenomorphs, but it all came down.
Gravemind's not dead, he's just infused with the planet now. That means he can basically turn their entire environment and habitat against them in the next video, if you make one!
One question. Can the Flood counteract or get past the Xenomorph's acid blood?
If the Xenomorphs have consumed their flesh, yes. Which they have in this entire video, haven't they? They have consumed their flesh and in doing so consumed flood spores and flood DNA, which has by then, in fact, there, overridden the Xenomorphs, infected them, taken their biological information, and now all flood spores in the next video, if you make one, will have the ability to counter the aliens' acidic blood and other attributes, making the Xenomorphs absolutely helpless against the new and evolved flood if you make a part 2 to this video. Yes.
The answer? No.
Wrong.
Flood infection form only infects creatures from the Halo universe.
Wrong. They can infect anything as long as it has sentient intelligence or sufficient biomass. Indicating there, Xenomorphs have sufficient biomass, but their sentient intelligence is with the Queen. Try and figure that one out, One Fish Mob. Like I said, he hasn't read the Wikipedias through properly, or played the games properly, so he's missed out quite a lot of stuff.
And because of this, it nullified one of the Flood's most important factions, being able to infect them.
Go away, Angus.
He lies on burrowing into victim. The same can be said with any other Flood form. They had to get up close and personal with the Xenomorph himself.
Still, you've made it so some of the Xenomorphs have only swiped down the Flood, rather than melted them down. Those Flood creatures that have been swiped down haven't had their nervous systems completely destroyed. Which means they can just get back up again and attack the Xenomorphs by surprise. See? Surprise in resurrection. That's one thing you forgot there, One Fish Mob.
Whenever they got past the armor, the acidic blood easily damaged, injured, or killed them. The only Flood form that stood a single chance at successfully infecting the Xenomorphs would be the Flood spores. But even then, they were nulled and voided since the early...
This guy's an idiot. This guy is an idiot. He thinks because the Xenomorphs have acidic blood that they are immune to the Flood infection forms. They're not Flood spores. Flood spores are minutely microscopic, can be inhaled, and infect them from the inside out. They can just touch the skin of the Xenomorphs, which happens to be right over top of the skeleton. Oh, God, this guy is a moron.
Forms of Xenomorph were born from a similar virus and or slime and showed immunity to it afterwards.
No. Xenomorphs were born from a slime. Flood were created from the dust of one of the most powerful alien creatures in the multiverse, really. The precursors. But, once again, One Fish Mob forgot that.
Doesn't even help that even though the Gravemind has assimilated crew members with knowledge of the Xenomorphs,
if he had assimilated knowledge from the crew members that were, facing against the Xenomorphs, the Flood would have already adapted and become immune to the acidic blood because the crew members who were once alive would have had knowledge of that. But, of course, you forgot that as well, One Fish Mob. Why wouldn't you forget that?
Xenomorphs themselves have just survived and endured a lot worse.
No. No. Xenomorphs cannot survive a Halo array. Flood managed to somehow. But, yeah, like I said before, the last 3 or 4 times, One Fish Mob forgot that as well. Some Flood even managed to survive Ground Zero when the Pillar of Autumn blew up, which, can I say, produced a temperature of 125 million degrees. So, no, that's Farron. No. Fahrenheit is basically 270 million degrees. Celsius is 115. No, what is it? 150 million degrees. That's right. Okay, which is 10 times hotter than the sun's core, whatever temperature base you put it at. Xenomorphs have been able to survive hot lead, which only goes up to like what? Basically near 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, probably. The Xenomorphs have survived nothing compared to the Flood. My God, you have done no research at all, have you, on Fishmob? You're going by instinct.
So in the end, the Flood just met its match.
No, if you had actually done your research, the Xenomorphs would have met their match far sooner than anything else.
The winner
Is not the Xenomorphs because you're an idiot.
Xenomorphs.
I'm going to probably just paste an annotation, with the Flood picture on it instead, because we've all seen this guy's stupid. He forgot. He'd just forgotten or just couldn't be bothered researching everything about the Flood. So, yeah, that's my review on this fan war, which I've finally gotten off my head. God. That's all said and done finally. So, without further ado, see yas!